Hello and welcome to yet another live with the Exodus Collective. I am Zoe Smith and I am live here from Grenada, West Indies. In today's live, we are talking about moving abroad with kids. It's somewhat of a niche topic. Maybe many of you might be long past the age where you need to think about moving kids, or maybe you're years away from having to think about it. But from the calls that I've been doing with many of you who are thinking about relocating overseas, factoring in how to make it work with children is definitely something that seems to be top of many people's agenda. And as I have moved with my three kids to Grenada, and in the past I've moved to Spain with a 7-month-old, I just thought today would be a good time to talk through some of my learning lessons and to answer any of your questions about moving with kids. I can see you've got Blessed Green Chick. Hey, Blessed Green Chick, hello and blessings to you. Where in the world are you? I would love to know. There seems to be like a really strong contingent of North Americans. But yeah, it's always good to find out where you are. So first off, one of the things that I think I've said many times is that if you ever hear me giving you finance advice or parenting advice, like definitely give me a rap on the knuckles, because I'm definitely not an expert. And nothing that I say to you today is necessarily about expertise. It's more just my experience as someone who has made the move with kids. And I think one of the things that I want to do today is to talk through, what can go wrong. What can go wrong, or what I haven't done correctly, so that you guys can do it the right way around. Shirley, hey Shirley. Shirley says that she is child-free. Shirley is child-free. Congrats, Shirley. Congrats for tuning in anyhow. If you are child-free, tell me what it is that you're looking to gain from today's session, because what I love about these interactive ones is that it really is an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit more and have a conversation, rather than me just answering stuff in the comments. So yeah, Shirley, let me know what it is that you're looking to gain from today's session. Are you planning to have kids? Are kids just not part of the conversation at all? When it comes to moving abroad for you, I would love to know. So anyone else with questions, drop them in the comments and I will definitely get back to you. So given that as I said, am not an expert, I kind of took quite a bit of time to do some research to see what other people say about how to make moving abroad easier for kids. And one of the first thing that I've come across that really resonates is to involve them in the decision-making process. And Blessed Green Chick, let me show you her response. She says, well, we're having our children in Jamaica, so they'll come after the move. And I think that's a really smart decision. Lots of people say that I want to have a family first, get established, and then move. And those of you in the audience, you might have your perspective. Let me know what you think. But from my perspective, understanding the level of richness / complication that children can bring to life, I think definitely getting yourself settled overseas, if that's what you want to do, getting that done first and then adding kids is like, yeah, a much simpler way to make that recipe. I won't say better, because everyone's different, right? And you never know what your circumstances are going to be like. But from my experience, having moved with kids a few times, I definitely think, yeah, moving first, then bringing kids. If you have the option, that is the way forward. I've got a question from Lee. Do you think that parents overstress about finding good education for their kids? Gosh, that's a tough one. What do you think, Lee? Do you think that parents overstress about finding good education for their kids? I can answer from my perspective and also from what I see in the conversations I have with people who do consultations with me. So answering the second part first, do I think in general, folks who are looking to move abroad worry too much about finding good education for their kids? I would say no. That's not really something that I come across. I think perhaps because I'm focused on the Caribbean, and in general, the standard of education here is quite high. Um, there's less to worry about. Like the idea that your kids are going to end up in a sink school with like awful teachers and no one cares about them and like fights breaking out all the time in classrooms. It's kind of different to what you're experiencing in the UK or the US, where there's a risk of them getting shot in the classroom. It's a totally different the it's a total different foundation. It's a lot less, the low is less low than it is in other countries, if that makes sense. So that the fears about finding good education, generally, I think the provision is fairly decent. So I think it's tricky for folks to stress about that too much. I think also the fact that private schools in many Caribbean islands are a lot more affordable than they would be in the UK or the US also makes it easier for parents to kind of not panic too much about it. So that's what I would hear. That's what I would say is my feedback from other people who I speak to who are looking to move. In terms of me, sorry, it's really hot, even though it's only January. In terms of me, I don't think I would say that I stressed too much about finding good education for my children, but it's definitely probably number one or number two in terms of important factors when moving. I think because there is so much difference and so much uncertainty in Grenada, in terms of lifestyle, culture, opportunities, etc., I really wanted to make sure that in terms of learning, I won't say academics, but in terms of learning, my kids were going to be in the best position possible. So I did take quite a bit of time in terms of finding somewhere for them to attend. I think when I first came in 2015, and we spent 6 months here. I put my son into a school, and that was a chance for us to test run how well he would fit in, what the level of education was like, how much homework he was getting, what his way of interacting with the teachers would be. And I think he was 2015. So he was 4.5. But it really took the fear out of wondering what it would be like for him to settle. And that was a private school, an affordable private school, but I don't think we stressed about that too much. And then when I came back here 5 years later, no, more than 5 years later, a long time later, with 3 kids in total, making sure I definitely did some research into the options as to which school I would feel is the best fit for my kids, because I think often what's going to work for you isn't necessarily going to work for someone else. Another parent might tell you, oh, this school is fantastic, but really understanding what your priorities are, whether it's something super academic or something that's has much more of a community vibe. I think those are the sort of things that you need to be looking at when it comes to choosing education for your kids abroad. And also the commute. That's one of the things that comes up is like, gosh, my commute to school is like so long. But yeah, if you do have children, thinking about where they'll be going to school and then using that to factor in where you'll be living is a smart hack. So that's one thing that I would suggest. That's hearing that education is actually superior in the US. I mean, it's relative, everyone, it's so relative. What is defined as good education? But I think the minimum level that they would get in the Caribbean is higher than the minimum level in the US or the UK. That's what I would say. If anyone else disagrees, anyone in any other destinations, let me know. I'd love to know your perspective too. Let me know and I'll put your comment up on screen. Thank you. Punky Reggae Party. I like that name. I'm glad you found it useful. And yeah, I just think the lives are a way for me to answer your questions directly and to perhaps talk about stuff that I might only mention in passing in some of the other videos. And the kids aspect is it's a whole thing in and of itself. So yeah, keep on asking your questions. Lee, good. I'm glad that helped. So yeah, going back to the first point, involving children in the decision-making process. What if anyone has children and is thinking about moving, what's your take on that? How much would you involve your children in the decision-making process as to whether or not to move, where to move to? I would love to get your thoughts. In terms of my process, I think when we started looking to move, my children were, gosh, it's always difficult to, maybe like 9, 4, and 3. So my approach was less to ask them, like, should we move, but just kind of raising it in their consciousness that actually, we're going to be going on holiday here, and this is somewhere that it's likely that we'll return to. We knew which schools that they would be attending, I went online to show them what the schools would look like. And I think those little bits and pieces really starts to help paint a picture in children's minds. And I think that sort of the fear that you have as an adult is no different from the fear that they have. And I think the less uncertainty that there is really can make a difference. And I think just talking about it can help. And for me, it was tricky because my kids kind of went back and forth. At times they were like, yes, Grenada sounds exceptionally exciting. We really look forward to moving. How adventurous is it going to be? And at other times they're like, we don't want to go. We do not want to leave the UK. We don't want to leave our family. We don't want to leave our friends. And that can be a really tricky conversation to have. And I guess there are different schools of thought. For some families, the fact that children object is something that you definitely want to listen to, and you'll adapt your plans because your children's perspectives are exceptionally valid, and you want them to definitely have a say in what happens in the family as a whole. And for others, it's sort of thinking about the fact that sometimes as adults, we have to take decisions that children don't find very easy or comfortable. And I think for me, I probably fall into the latter camp in that, for sure, my children remind me quite regularly that I didn't ask them if they want to move to Grenada, which is true. I didn't ask them if they want to move to Grenada. I more presented it as in this is what's happening. And yeah, it's definitely a work in progress, getting them to adapt and to love being here. And one of the things that I always remember is that when I used to come to Grenada on holiday, I did not enjoy Grenada. I found it very boring. I missed a lot of stuff that was on offer in the UK. But as I got older, I began to appreciate the benefits of Grenada. And perhaps with my kids, it's about planting that seed and seeing the direction that they're able to take it to when they're older. And yeah, perhaps have more of an appreciation for Grenada. But to be honest, we've been here 18 months. And in some ways it's a long time, and in other ways it's a short time. But yeah, I think it's a process for me as an adult, and it's a process for them as children. So that's definitely something to consider. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts. How many of you think that children should decide, children should have a defining say in whether or not a family moves abroad? And again, it also depends on so many factors, doesn't it? I think the age matters. So for example, teenagers, of course, they're going to want to have a say. It will be hard for them not to have a say. A 4-year-old or a 6-year-old, it might differ somewhat. So that's also, a factor to consider. Here's a question. Curious about continuing education for adults. Are there many options? Which destination are you talking about? Punky Reggae Party. Is that in Grenada? Let me know if it is Grenada. There are a number of options. You have the University of the West Indies has an open campus, which is primarily online learning, but they do have the TM Mary Show campus that is based in St. George's. So in terms of being able to access resources and to connect with other students, that is an option if you want to continue your studies online, and it's accredited. So that is an option if you're talking about Grenada. If you're talking about elsewhere, let me know and I can get back to you on that one. Lee, I lean towards factoring their opinions. However, I would make the decision. Yeah. you wouldn't ignore their opinions. You wouldn't say that they're invalid. You want to make them feel heard and listened to, and perhaps there's ways that you end up accommodating their opinions. But I feel, yeah, I mean, it depends. Lee, how old are your kids? How old are your children? Maybe their age does affect the way in which you make a decision or which decision you actually make. But I definitely think age it can be a defining factor. I'll wait for any questions. If not, I'll move on to the second point. So the second point is helping to prepare them in advance. So that was kind of what I was talking about with regards to the schooling, getting them to look at the school websites, see what the uniform would look like, check out the Facebook page, see what sort of activities and school trips they went on, just to kind of get a sense of like, who are these kids? Where am I going to be spending most of my time? So in terms of education, I found that to be like a really useful strategy just to kind of help the idea sink in a little bit. One of the other things that we did was to stay in Grenada for, how long was it? I think not the entire summer holiday, but at least it was more than a month. I think it was 5 weeks that we came down here for. And we came down in the middle of summer, and summer in Grenada is so hot. Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's hot now, but it's even hotter in the summertime. And the kids definitely were not fans of the heat, definitely not fans of the mosquitoes. But at least they knew what Grenada was. And to be honest, my son had been coming here since he was about 18 months old. So Grenada was familiar to him. My girls first came when they were 6 months old and 18 months old. But again, having that long stay was really useful. And also, one of the things that I did was to get them to attend a summer camp for part of our stay that was run by one of the schools that they would be attending. So again, that was a way for them to get to know some of the teachers, to get to know some of the students that they would be studying alongside, and just to get a vibe of like what their community would look like. And I think that if you have the option of traveling to the Caribbean with kids over the summer, as much as adults, you kind of do your scouting trip, you kind of look at what the bank's going to like, the shopping, blah, blah, blah. Thinking about what that scouting trip looks like for your kids, like what sort of thing are they going to want to experience, whether it's understanding the schooling, checking out the parks, seeing what sort of after school activities are like, which is going to be their favorite beach. I think those sort of things that help to make it real really does help them to prepare in advance. Because as little as they are, they still experience and they still feel and they still have attachments. I remember when we moved in 2015 and my son was 4.5, I remember him just sobbing uncontrollably because he missed his grandparents' dog. And I think the level of emotion wasn't just about the dog, it was about like the lack of familiarity, feeling like, oh my gosh, have I left everything behind? And children are adaptable, but they are also kind of feeling little beings too. And I think the more that we can do to sort of help them along in that journey and get them ready for it, the easier it makes the process when they get here. Lee has a 7-year-old. Yeah. And I think that's the thing in terms of the effect that a changing culture can have. Like, yes, it can be challenging at times, but I think in the long term, the sort of skills that it gives you as an adult are really like priceless. I think my kids are much more aware of different lived realities than they would have experienced had they solely been in London. They are learning to interact with all different sorts of people from all different sorts of life in a way that they probably would have been able to kind of sidestep in other cities. And also just being able to be out and about and outdoors, I think that also kind of gives them a lot more freedom. I remember my middle daughter is actually quite shy. She's a very shy little kid, but I think since coming to Grenada, the fact that she can't just see the friends that she's always known, that she does, she's able to go up to a bunch of new kids in the park and say, hi, can I play with you? Which before she would have sort of been hiding behind me. So seeing the ways in which your kids grow by being abroad really does, it makes a difference. It kind of helps you know that it's all worth it, which isn't to say that it's easy. It's definitely not always easy. There definitely are times where they panic, which makes you panic. But yeah, I think sticking with it and understanding their perspective really, really is useful. The third thing that you can do in order to make moving abroad with kids easier is to help them maintain connections. And to be honest, this is one thing that I don't think I have done very well. I'm the sort of person who like cuts ties quite easily. When I'm here, I'm here. When I'm there, I'm there. And in terms of making sure that like the kids are calling people regularly, emailing, sending postcards, it hasn't really happened the way that I hoped it would. I promised my daughter that we would keep in touch with her primary school class back in England, that we would send them postcards from Grenada. We haven't sent a single postcard. Yeah. And again, I think that's one thing that I haven't done well, which I would recommend other people make a conscious effort. And maybe for those of you, for you, it isn't a conscious effort. Maybe you're the sort of person who keeps in touch anyway, so it's really easy. Maybe it's a no-brainer that you do what's needed to help them maintain those connections. But we do go back to the UK regularly, probably two times a year at least. And when we're there, they catch up with friends, they catch up with family. They definitely keep in touch with family while we're here as well. Zoom calls make a difference. WhatsApp, being able to just get in touch makes a difference. But yeah, it's a challenging one to navigate because you don't want to lose the connections that you have back home, but you also want to be open to what's in front of you as well. But making sure that you do sort of smooth that process so that they do have their best friend to call if they want to, or they can just jump on the line to whoever they need to, I think really helps make that landing pad for them a lot easier. Anyone else, any of you have any suggestions or tips or different ways that you would approach things in terms of helping your kids maintain connections with where they were to where they're going? That really would be interesting to know. But yeah, I definitely think that's an area that I could do better in. But I don't do as well, not because I don't think it's important, just because I'm not that sort of person. But my kids might be. So this is a note that I'm making for myself that I need to do better. So 2023 is already the year of reestablishing connections with their friends back home. This one here, the fourth point is find ways to make the new location feel like home. And that can be giving them routines, so making sure that their routine that they had in your country of origin is still replicated in their new location, whether it's bedtimes or whether they were passionate about football back home, and making sure that you scout out the best football coaching program where you are, whether it's one of the things that I did. So my girls, they're very much in their element when they're playing. And I literally don't have it here, but I literally filled like a crate full of all of their toys. And it was like a ridiculous amount of money to spend on shipping a bunch of plastic and wood. But for them, just having everything that they were familiar with, like all of their Lego, their dolls, their dressing items, their ice cream, like everything. At the time, I did wonder, does this actually make sense? But for them, it's just made things that much easier, just knowing that everything that they want is on hand. And I think especially in Grenada, and I can't speak for all other Caribbean islands, but here in Grenada, finding a diversity of toys can be tricky. And sometimes people worry about like, can I pack too much? But I think in terms of kids' toys, it's really hard to. And those little things, those little material things really can make a difference in terms of how settled they feel. And yeah, so one of the things that you could also do is like make sure that they get involved with the packing list. What are the items that they want to bring, so that they feel a sense of being able to define the progress. So whether it's wanting like this doll, or they know that they're going to want this sort of backpack, or this sunglasses, whatever it is, just to help them feel that they have a say. I think it's small, but those little things of saying, like, I bought this from the US or the UK and I have it here in whichever destination I'm in, I think that definitely can make a difference in terms of helping them feel in control of what's happening. The other point is to be supportive. This is a tricky one because my kids, if anyone's ever met my kids in Grenada, right, and you say to them, do you enjoy being in Grenada? They will very quickly, without fail, tell you all the things that they don't like about Grenada. The showers in Grenada are apparently different to the showers in the UK. The pasta in Grenada is different to how it is in the UK. They will very easily get into a negative spin on the fact that there's a lot here that they don't enjoy, and there's a lot here that they miss. And for me, at times, while it can be slightly trying to hear this long list of things that they don't love and enjoy, that is part of their experience. I also see the fact that they have immense amount of freedom, that they have new friends, that they have experiences that they never would have had in the UK. But the fact that they do find it difficult is something that I kind of have to acknowledge. And we do find ways to be supportive about it, to listen to them, to make them feel heard, to make sure that the things that they're missing, they have a chance to delve into and experience when they are back in the UK. And yeah, it's definitely not straightforward. It's definitely not easy. But I think for me, maybe perhaps because my kids are a bit younger, I definitely have to think about the fact that how they feel. It's very easy to get caught up in the moment and sort of in a spin. But supporting them in ways that can help them lead out of that panic or the kind of woe is me situation really can help give you perspective, and can also give them perspective when they're sort of stuck in that sort of frame of mind. And the other thing is seeking out resources. And in Grenada, this is something that I have found to be not so straightforward. So in the UK, when I had the kids, there was always an abundance of whether it's play groups for them to attend, or programs at the library, or just so many things that were set up with kids in mind, that it was really easy for them to attend, really easy for them to connect with other children, and it also easy for me to connect with other parents. The whole experience of parenting, even though, like, obviously the weather in the parks was awful, there was a lot on offer. In Grenada, that definitely isn't the case. I was going to say maybe, but it definitely isn't the case. In terms of if you're a mother with a baby, is there a creche that you go to where you have a coffee morning and you chat and your kid plays on the soft play? No, there isn't. And so that sort of setup where you would easily connect with other parents, where you would easily connect with other kids, definitely feels lacking. And if you're coming here as a newbie, knowing how to navigate that as a parent, and knowing how your child can navigate that to kind of form connections, to make relationships outside of the school environment, can be quite tricky. And another thing that I found different, and those of you who've made the move, or those of you thinking about making the move, definitely let me know. But because of the whole COVID situation, you're quite often just handing your kids over at the school gate. So that opportunity to kind of meet with other parents, to really deep dive with their teachers, it's different to how it was 3 or 4 years ago. So again, in terms of finding that support for you as a parent and for them as a child, it's definitely different. So one of the ways that we're trying to navigate that this year is making sure that they have more after school clubs to attend to, whether it's swimming or sailing or acrobatics, trying to find ways for them to be able to kind of build their support group, to build their connections outside of the school environment, definitely is a priority. And in a way, one of the things I'm also realizing that I'm going to have to do is just create it myself. I remember when I moved to Milan in 2004, a really long time ago. It was really easy to just go on instant messenger and find expats in Milan. You'd make a brand new group of friends, and you would just go out. You'll go and explore the city together. Things were always really quiet on Sundays, and you just kind of had places to go, people to meet who were in the same situation as you. In Grenada, I am yet to find that. There are sort of like little pockets, people who know each other, but it's not straightforward to know where to find them. And after a year and a half of agonizing over it, I'm thinking the solution is to kind of just create those sort of environments. If I need them and my kids need them, why not just create them? Because for sure, I'm not the only parent who kind of wants other parents to talk to. And I know my kids aren't the only kids who kind of want other children to be able to hang out with outside of school environments. So yeah, in terms of those resources that are going to be a source of support, yeah, creating them yourself wherever you go might just be the solution. So that is definitely my perspective in terms of what I'm doing in order to kind of make things work for my kids. Some suggestions as to what you might be able to do with regards to making that adjustment for your children easier. And yeah, I think I've spoken in the past about some of the mistakes that I've made in moving to Grenada, and the sort of balance, getting that whole family life thing set up. Probably made that video a year ago, and the progress has perhaps been a lot slower than I would have imagined. But yeah, it's a process. It's a process. Here's a question. Do you think part of the difference to your Milan experience is because Grenada is so much smaller? Do I think it's because Grenada? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think because people do come to Grenada from all over the place. You've got SGU, which brings quite an international crowd. You have folks on yachts coming here. You have folks moving from all over CARICOM to be here. So definitely in St. George's, it is international. So I don't think it's the size so much. It's more just, I feel it's just like the setup is different. It's really hard to find information in Grenada. I think in a way it was easier to find information in Milan in 2004, pre-Facebook, pre-YouTube, than it is to find information in Grenada. So much of what's happening is communicated either through word of mouth or on the radio. So if you're not listening to the radio, you miss out on the fact that like this amazing event is happening here, or that amazing session is taking place there. So that's one thing. A lot of places don't have websites. So yeah, or email mailing lists. So the typical way that you would find information about what's happening in the location back home, you just miss it. So often people have the perspective that there's not much happening in Grenada, and I don't think it's true. It's not communicated in the way that maybe you and I are used to. So I think it's less about the size and more just the way in which information is shared, which is it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to do things differently. And that's definitely something that I'm working on, because there's too many people that I'm speaking to who are like, yeah, I'd love to move to Grenada, or like I've done a trial run of living here, but where's the community? Who do I connect with? Where do I go? And yes, you have the hashes for sure. The hashes, which are like running sessions that happen all over Grenada in different locations, for sure, they are a way to connect with people. But that's like 3 hours on a Saturday and a pretty unique setup that isn't for everyone. So it's beginning to change. When was it? Earlier this week, we popped along to a beautiful new bookstore and event space just in the Marquis complex in Grenada, a place called Akasha. And it's a man who's moved from Jamaica, and his wife is originally from Grenada, but they spend a lot of time in the Bahamas. And I think they definitely feel the need for community, and they're setting about building community. And I think the more people who move to Grenada who have that sort of mindset, it's kind of going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You want community, you build community, community is formed. And I think I've said it in a video before, but that definitely is one of the things that makes it easier for people to feel like they want to stay, is feeling that sense of belonging. Because if you're just sort of taking your kids to and from school and not really connecting to anyone, I think it's quite easy to feel like you're missing out, because I guess that's a lot of what we don't like in wherever we are, right? In the UK or the US, it's so easy to feel anonymous, to feel disconnected. And in the Caribbean, like, that sense of belonging is so much more profound and so much more, in theory, easy to tap into. But being really intentional about how you build that. And also for like folks who are moving to be able to connect with each other, that really does make a difference. And as much as I've said in my videos that before I moved here, that I wanted to like just be immersed in Grenadian culture and like around Grenadians and not really having much to do with expats, at times it is just really refreshing to be able to kind of have a conversation with someone who gets where we're coming from, who gets your struggles. I remember meeting up with a friend who moved to Grenada 14 years ago, and we'd been planning to meet up for ages, and we didn't because of the pandemic and just because I'm like terrible at being sociable. But when we did, we literally talked for 6 hours. 6 hours straight. We sat at a bar and just talked. And I think we both enjoyed it because we got each other. We got what that experience is like. And if it was that sort of satisfying for us as two individuals, imagine how much more significant that could have been, or would have been if it was multiple people. And I definitely, there's a reality that in Grenada, sometimes folks can get a little bit burnt out, especially people who want to make change, people who feel that things could be done a lot more smoothly here. And I think there definitely is a real need for that sort of support and connection, so that there is scope for folks to be able to lean on each other and not to feel like they need to leave the island when they've had enough, because that does happen. Folks come here, it's tough, and they leave. And sometimes Grenadians are like, well, why did they leave? They couldn't hack it. And it's because a lot of people don't have to hack it. If they feel like it's not working here, there are multiple other countries in the world that they could live to and have a good quality of life, and they choose to vote with their feet. But I think if there was more support, and people were able to lean on each other, share knowledge, share contacts, whatever, that sense of exchange would just make it a lot easier to feel like it's okay. Feel like it's okay to have a bad day because there's someone who gets it and can help you navigate through it. So that was a little bit of a rant, wasn't it? Let's go back to some of your questions. Yes, if you feel disconnected, isolated, that won't feel like home at all. Yeah, I agree. And it also depends on where you're living. So for me, I am in a lot of, generally because it takes me too long to make a video far from my house. Often when you see me walking around, I'm walking around my neighborhood, which is Fort Judy. So Fort Judy is a kind of expat, repat area that is not typically, it's not your typical Grenadian area, I would say. And so folks are very much more in their houses. You don't see people liming on this. There are no limes in Fort Judy. Aside from like the beach at the front by Fort Judy Gap, there are no limes taking place in Fort Judy. So if that thing of just like being out of your house, interacting with people, having a cook up, having a chat is on your agenda, making sure that you move to that sort of environment is really important. Now that environment comes with other things that you might not like. You might feel that people are in your business and blah, 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 but where you live definitely defines your experience. So that's one of the things when I'm doing consultations with folks, and trying to get a sense from them as to where they want to be, how they want to live, getting a sense as to which community would be the best for them really can make a difference. And for those of you, someone mentioned that they love watching Nezel's show. I think Nezel does a really good job of showing you the different areas in Grenada and kind of tuning into some of those and getting a sense of like what the community is like. Really is a way to be able to kind of make sure that your needs are being met. What's this one here? Who wants to hack it? Most immigrants who have resources aren't looking for that, in my opinion. What do you mean by that? Tell me more. Who wants to hack it? Who can't? Did I say they can't hack it? Tell me more. What you mean by that, and I would love to talk about that a little bit more. Most immigrants who have resources aren't looking for that, in my opinion. Yeah, I would love to know more. Someone else asks about, yeah. If you just Google Nezel, you'll come up with a lot of her videos, and she does the hashes. Yeah, you basically, it'll take you to parts of Grenada. I mean, it happens all over the Caribbean, but I think in Grenada, it's particularly large. Maybe like 80, 100 people will turn up in a particular destination. There's a trail. You have to follow the trail. The trail might take you alongside a cliff edge or who knows what, some historic sites. And it's a really fun way to get to explore the island, to get fit, to meet new people. But if you are lazy or if you have very young children, it might not be the route that you choose to go down. But yeah, definitely recommend checking that out. Yeah. You suggest that locals think that those who leave can't hack it. I think most are looking to get away from hacking it, you know? Yeah, and that's the thing. That is the thing. I mean, honestly, I think wherever you are, there are always going to be adjustments. In the UK or the US, there's things that you have to accept and have to adjust to. In the Caribbean, there are also going to be things that you have to accept and have to adjust to, if you choose to. The idea that there's anywhere that's absolutely perfect, I don't think that exists. There are some aspects that are perfect and some aspects that are not so perfect. And at the end of the day, you make the choice as to what you're willing to accept, what you don't. And I think, as to your point before, people with resources do have choices. And yeah, we vote with our feet. But one of the things that I say with regards to Grenada is like, you know, if great customer service is top of your list, you might want to think about whether you want to move to Grenada, because if it really matters to you and you can't cope with it not being delivered, you're going to be really irritated, you're going to be really disappointed, and you're going to be really frustrated. Yeah, I don't think I'm overstating that. Grenada, the customer service in Grenada is not great. It's not what many folks are used to. I remember talking to someone who said, you know, I'd love to move to Grenada, but the customer service, is there a way that I can give back and change customer service? And I was like, listen, if you're moving here and you want an easy life, why don't you pick something a little bit smaller? Because like Grenada is the way that it has been for decades, centuries. To think that you with your tastes are going to come here and change things, like that's a nice idea, but the reality is that it's probably not going to happen. There is an entire college set up here. It's called WISH, the West Indies School for Hospitality, and it's all about training service providers here in the art of hospitality. I think they even partner with Cornell University. So there's a lot of resources and a lot of goodwill behind changing aspects of Grenada to make it more palatable for folks from overseas. But yeah, you're not going to change it. You're not going to change it. So you just need to think, okay, is this something that I'm willing to accept or am I not? And for me, like someone being a little bit short with me in the shops, I just choose not to shop there again. There's other shops. I'm not going to stand there and have an argument. I'm going to make myself sweat. I don't take it on, because if I did, I would be, it just wouldn't be pleasant. I would be missing out on the aspects of Grenada that I love if I chose to focus on that side of thing, which is, is could be better. And again, I'm from the UK, right? So even in the UK, our customer service is not as high as it is in the US. So I guess folks coming from the US, their experience for them is even more challenging, right? Because you have a high level of expectations, but you choose what it is that you're willing to hack. And I think in the session that we did last week, where I was talking about how to make your move abroad, how you identify what's important to you, you're just honest. There's nothing wrong with saying, like, I value customer service. If I find that it's not going to be delivered, that is going to make my life too challenging. Therefore, I'm not going to move to this island. That's totally fine. Like, you do you. Don't apologize for it. But at the same time, don't think you're going to change the destination that you're moving to because you understand that things can be done differently. That's what I would say. I'm going to have a think about if there's anything else that I can't hack. But what is it? What would you not be willing to put up with? I call it your non-negotiables. If there's anything else, I would love to know from you folks what's on your. I would not put up with that thing. I know I'm probably a big city girl, for example. So my discovery trips, yeah. And I can't remember if it was this week or last. No, I can't remember. You see someone, Eva, you're making the camera move, so you need to move. Thank you. Sorry, I've got an AI camera, so it moves when people move. I was doing a call with someone and I was going through their must-haves. And one of their must-haves is like, I want amenities. I want to be able to go to the ice skating rink. I want like a multi-screen cinema. I want to be able to like buy stuff, like be able to choose what I buy, not have 2 stores and that's it. And at the end, she asked, why didn't I suggest Grenada? And I said, if this is important to you, Grenada is just going to frustrate you. If you know that this stuff gives you pleasure, why not choose a destination that offers that? Because if you kind of sacrifice on the stuff that's important to you, then that's not the best. And I think if you're going to move, you should aim for the best. You should know what makes you happy and go after that. For me, I miss having a choice of bookshops. I miss having a choice of restaurants to go to. There's a lot that I miss, but as much as I miss the fact that there is just so much on offer in terms of nature, so much on offer in terms of peace, the ability to immerse yourself in culture, to discover, to make family connections, like all of that for me makes up for the stuff that I miss. So I think it's really just about being honest. That's what my list looks like. That might not necessarily be what your list looks like, but I think being honest and unapologetic is really, really useful. So I mentioned before that for the month of January, because so many of you are set on making moves and want to take action and to move from just watching videos and actually start putting in place the steps that you need to make your move happen. I am doing Pay What You Want one-to-one clarity sessions. So if there are specific things that you need help with, there's the specific things that you want to sound out, that's a half-hour session where you can jump on a Zoom with no one else watching, and we can just talk through what it is that you need in order to make your move happen. My focus is on the Caribbean. Sometimes people ask me about moving to African countries. There are folks that I can connect you to, but the Caribbean definitely is my focus, and Grenada specifically. So if that's something that would be of use to you, definitely let me know. I think I put the link in the description, but I'll probably also drop it here in the chat so you can book. And it's literally only for January, because after January, some really exciting stuff is happening, which means that I won't have time to do one-on-one calls. But I just want as many people as possible to be able to start the year right, to take action, to know what their path looks like. And yeah, just if you want to move, move. And that might not necessarily mean moving now. It could be in a year or 2 years or 3 years, but at least knowing what that roadmap looks like for you so that you can take action at whatever speed you want is something that I really, really want to help folks with. And the feedback so far is that it's been really useful in terms of giving people clarity, because sometimes what you need to do is actually to just put the blinkers on. You know, there's so much that you could potentially research. There's so many resources that you could look into. There's so many countries that you could potentially move to, but getting clear on what your strategy looks like, what your route out of here looks like, really does help you get focused and then take action towards achieving that goal. And January is the perfect time to get clear on that, which is why I'm doing the lives, which is why I'm offering the one-on-ones. So I will find that link and drop it in here. But yeah, take action. Take action. Do what you can to take action. Or if you're not going to move, like it can be a big sense of release to be like, do you know what, this, I would like to, but it's not for me right now. And to just park it and come back to it in a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time. And I think even if you just take the decision, yes, I'm going to work towards moving, or no, not now. It just, either one is going to help you to just be much more efficient in whichever direction that you want to go. And the not now can mean like, cool, I'll come back to it. I'll get clear on my destinations in a year's time, in 18 months' time. But in the meantime, I'm going to, put some money aside so that my options are a little bit broader, or my runway is a little bit longer when I do decide to move. So that's definitely an aim for this call, for this series, and for the one-on-ones that I'm offering up until the 30th of January. Let's take a look at some other things. Having access to easy transit. Yeah. Choice of restaurants, shops, vendors. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Which means that Mexico or Portugal. Yeah, Mexico seems awesome. I would like to spend more time in Mexico. Yeah, I definitely think there might be a way that when the kids aren't in school, that Mexico could be a possibility, because it's also just so affordable. It's so cheap. It's really nice to just live somewhere where your money goes really far. In Grenada, in Grenada, you do not feel like you are getting more value for your dollar, your pound, etc. Whereas in Mexico, that, yeah, absolutely can be the case. Where in Mexico are you looking to move to? I would love to know. I jumped on a call with someone who actually, it wasn't a call, it was on a forum. Someone who was trying to decide whether or not they should sell their house, wait until they had enough money to buy their house outright, and then move abroad, or to see if there was another way that they could make it happen more quickly. And we talked through, Mexico was on the list, and there were certain destinations in Mexico that were on the list. And average cost of rent that they were looking at was probably around $2,500 US a month, which for Mexico is quite a lot. So part of the conversation that we had was, okay, look, listen, if you want to get out of the US and you feel that selling your house is holding you back, is there a way that you can look at other destinations in Mexico where the cost of living all in might be closer to 1,000 US a month? And then that enables you to get out sooner and then save money towards paying off your debts, and then you can be totally free. So I think there's definitely different ways of looking at things, and definitely the ways in which, like, really researching in a way that allows you to achieve your needs, your specific needs, can be much more effective than kind of thinking, okay, well, this is where everyone's going, I should probably go there. Like, yes, Tulum might be fantastic, but is that really going to fit your needs? I think taking that time to get really clear, do your research, understand like what all of the variables are for you. Absolutely can be a way to just to do things more efficiently and open yourself up to opportunities that you might not even have known existed. So that is definitely something that I would recommend. Just question it a little bit, do the math, make sure that all of those dots line up. One important tip I would give to people, whether moving back home or to your country of origin or a new country, the more you overthink it, you may end up, you may never end up taking that leap. Yeah, yeah, and I think there's two schools of thought with the interviews. People, and I say this in almost every session, but people either fall into they're like, I need the spreadsheets. I need to know what the economy is like. I need to know what the political stability is like. I need to know like the cost of housing in every single parish or every single area. Or those who are like, I've had enough. I'm off. I'm off. I will leap, and the road will rise up to meet me. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong way. You know what your sense of risk is like. You know what your responsibilities are like. And I think ultimately the calculation is that, like, how risk averse are you and how high are your responsibilities? If you have high responsibilities and a low tolerance for risk, the amount that you're going to have to put in place, the amount of research that you're going to have to do in order to feel comfortable is a lot higher than someone who is just responsible for themselves and is really happy just winging it. If it means like backpacking, if it means sleeping on someone's sofa, they're fine with that. So it's really, yeah, there's no right or wrong way. It's just about being honest with what you feel comfortable with and your process. But the one thing that I would say is that there's no perfect move. There is no perfect move. Like, I've done close to 100 videos. First time I moved abroad was 2001, which makes me seem so old, but yeah, it was a long time ago. I moved abroad as a single woman. I've moved abroad as a couple. I've moved abroad as a couple with a young kid, and I've moved abroad with 3 kids. I moved abroad as a self-employed person, as a consultant, as an employee, like all different variations of moving abroad with different levels of support and different levels of responsibility. And I can guarantee you there is no perfect move. You are bound to encounter things that you haven't expected. You are bound to like have one element that wasn't on your spreadsheet. So what do? Do you like go back home? Or do you say like, I'm not going to move because it won't be perfect? No, you build in some agility. And I think agility is as important. It's just an important life skill, whether you move or you don't, you know. I think the past few years have shown us that life is just so uncertain that, yeah, just being able to adapt really is essential, and it's even more essential when you are living an entirely new life overseas, because, yeah, you can't plan for everything. But you can move in ways that feel more secure than others. So you just need to be honest with you as to what that mix looks like for you. Going back to Mexico, yeah, heat. Heat is important. My kids say Grenada is too hot. Like, they're constantly complaining about the heat. And now it's not even that hot. It's it's actually, last night it was cool for the first time in ages. I was like, oh my gosh, it's refreshing. But yeah, come August, come September, it is baking, absolutely baking. And even I just like struggle. It makes me wish that I had like a house in the mountains where I could just be a little bit more like refreshed and cool. So you definitely need to think about the way in which you, get benefit from the way in which you live, from what you want to achieve, and what really matters to you. I am actually just trying to find the link to my booking page, and I can't actually find it, so I'll have to put that in afterwards. Bear with me a second. I don't know if that's going to work, but yeah, I'll put that in, and then you'll be able to access. I think it might actually not be live at the moment, so you might have to come back on that tomorrow. But going back to planning, it's important to plan and prepare and have a good plan. Yeah, a good plan never hurts, but the ability to adapt is also super, super important. Um, okay, so that's it. We started off talking about moving to moving with kids. Feels like so long ago. We started off talking about moving with kids. We moved on to kind of a recurring theme of how to actually take steps to make your move abroad happen. And yeah, now is the time. I think, I don't know where you are in the world. If you're looking at moving, perhaps you're not somewhere where you're like baking hot. Maybe you are cold and dreading going to work on Monday morning and thinking, okay, how do I do things differently? How do I, set up a life that is a little bit more aligned to the way in which I want to live, to the way in which I can be of most value to the world in an environment that really nurtures me. And if that is you, then it's definitely worth exploring exactly what that looks like. Because, yeah, why not? You can. That's the link if you want to book. If you want to book a call, I'm not 100% sure that it's live right now. If it's not live, check back tomorrow, and you should be able to access and book. As I said, those sessions are only available up until the 30th of January. In February, things are going to change quite significantly. So I just want to make sure that for those of you who do need help, who do need a one-on-one conversation, that you are able to get all of the information that you need. And yeah, to just kind of get that bespoke advice. So if that is something that you want, definitely give me a call. Definitely book a session. I might have to jump off this and just make sure that that link is live. But if it's not live when you go to check on it, drop me an email and I will send you the link as well. And hopefully for those of you who aren't watching this live, by the time you click on it, okay, it is live. Thank you very much. By the time you click on it, it should still be there. But yeah, really happy to talk. It's 30 minutes, which is a surprisingly long amount of time to get through the questions that you want. And what I do is to send you a recording of our conversation so you can kind of refer to it. And any questions that I need to follow up on, I can do that with you by email. But yeah, it's really just a way to hit the ground running and to make sure that you make the progress that you want. And if you need extensive advice, I can send you extensive links and you can go off and do your own research, or we can kind of talk again in January. But yeah, check it out. If it's of use, definitely let me know. If you want to scroll back through some of the interviews that I've done, quite often they are full of such gems. So that's definitely something worth looking into. And for those of you who have Grenada as a potential destination, definitely stay tuned because there should be some exciting news coming that will speak to that community building, that will speak to that support, and just ease of navigating through setting up here. So yeah, as always, it's been a pleasure having you here. Today has been slightly different because my kids have been in the background, so I've been much more distracted than I normally would be. But yeah, I hope it's been of value. If there are any questions, feel free to drop me an email. Feel free to book a one-on-one call via that link. And yeah, good luck with your exodus. Good luck with your week. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Next week, I will actually be doing a live here. I'll be doing a live on someone else's YouTube channel. So I'll find a way to promote that, probably in the community post section, so you know where to go. So I will be live, just not on the Exodus Collective. It will be with a couple who have moved to Portugal, and they are very much about wealth generation and well-being, and why I definitely, as I said before, cannot speak about wealth generation. I definitely can speak to the ins and outs of setting up a business in Grenada. So that is one of the things that I will be conversing with them on, the concept of investment migration setting up a business overseas as a way to reside elsewhere. So if that's of interest, definitely keep your eyes peeled on the Exodus Collective YouTube post, or if you're not subscribed already, subscribe to the mailing list over at the Exodus Collective, which is www.theexodus.co. There you go. Voila. There you go. Is it live? No, it's not. That's the place. If you want to sign up to the mailing list, sign up to the mailing list over there. And that way you'll get details of when I go live on their channel and all the other updates that come. And someone is saying, yes. Oh, Portugal is next on your trip. So definitely check out that interview, because I won't be talking Portugal. They will be talking Portugal, and they absolutely love it. I spoke to them just before Christmas, and it's a couple who moved from the States. I think maybe perhaps some of their children are thinking about joining them. And yeah, they're saying in terms of quality of life, in terms of community and just everything, it's totally working for them. So yeah, definitely look out for that. That's it. It's been a pleasure to see you. Hopefully I will see some of you on calls. And if not, I will see you on the live next week. But feel free to drop me a line, send me an email, and I wish all of you the best for the week to come. Take care. Bye.